Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's lesson is a little bit different than what you're normally used to. We are going to be combining a ballpoint pen with a 4B pencil. So you're probably wondering, wait a minute, can you even do that? The answer is yes. I'm going to show you how. Now it's going to be in thumbnail form, so we're not going to be sketching no huge work of art that's going to take 15, 20 hours or multiple days. I want you to grab your sketchbooks because I'm going to teach you how to do some thumbnail sketching if you haven't seen my videos before. If you're new to this, I just want you to grab whatever paper you have around you and just start doodling and scratching on some lines, yeah. So I thought today we could mix some plants and some creatures together. Those usually offer really cool ideas. Now when you do thumbnail sketches, the point is you don't want to go too crazy with the details. You're just letting your mind wander, and this is a really good way to get your brain out of the comfort zone. So each artist, watching this, and maybe that we'll see it at some point, we all have our comfort zones that we go to when we're doing our artwork. Certain shapes, certain certain ways that we start versus how we finish. Sometimes we have trouble finishing. The good thing about thumbnailing is that all of the lines that we put down are open to interpretation. You probably heard the term, I've thrown this around, idea factory. So you want to be an idea factory whenever you're doing thumbnails. So personally for me, my shapes tend to be more insectoid. Like you can see small flaps over here, but I'm putting leaves on it and maybe some vines or branches, maybe a root system going down here. It's just growing up, I obsessed about bugs. So I wasn't an entomologist. I didn't want to be that. I actually wanted to be a paleontologist because I was obsessed with dinosaurs more than bugs. Go figure. But as I got older and I really started to like the monsters and dinosaurs, especially after Jurassic Park came out, my brain just said, hey Bobby, you're going to do creatures for the rest of your life, and you're going to do environments for the creatures, you're going to do crazy armor, and I think it just stuck with me. Okay, so you're probably wondering, wait a minute, you're putting all these ink lines down, how the heck are you going to put pencil in there? Well, we're almost there. Okay, notice how I'm not focusing on one small area too much. Again, I'm just letting my brain flow. Now, I have no idea what I just drew. That's the point. So, well, most of the time when we jump into these sketches of ours, we have this idea in our head of what we want to put down on paper. And if you're sculpting in 3D, you have this image in your head of what you're going to sculpt. The thing is, we don't really get to see the true potential of those things until we flesh out the entire body. Okay, so you can see all these little squiggly marks going across the body. Those lines are eventually going to show up with the pencil. Now, I've been on this, 3 minutes? It's almost 4 minutes. That's good. Stop there. You're going to take a pencil like this, and then this is why I want you to use a ballpoint pen and not liquid ink. So don't use the gel pens or whatever, because those take a little longer to dry, and they're really not good for drawing unless you're inking comics. Same thing with Repeatograph. Repeatograph is amazing. I love those pens. They're good for the super fine details, and they're great for stippling. So what you're going to do now is very lightly put a one-directional layer of graphite across the thumbnail, like this. And then I'm just going to turn the paper a little bit, and I'm going to do it again, like this. So you can see here, this is different. You're probably not used to seeing these two mediums mixed together. We have ink, and then we have pencil. Now the great thing about using the ink is, again, all the lines show up regardless of how hard you push with the graphite. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking at certain areas where I know that it's going to be a little darker, but again, this is a thumbnail, so you don't want to spend too much time on these, maybe another minute. This is different than my other teachings where you time yourself with your cell phone 2 to 3 minutes tops for just a basic thumbnail. Since we're combining tools, this is going to be a little bit more helpful to just go about 5 or 6 minutes. Like this. And I'm even treating my pencil marks the same way I did the ink. And here you can see the harsh shadow underneath there. And then I can take the ballpoint pen and I can go right back over some areas where I know that the least amount of light is touching. So anywhere on the underbelly of whatever the heck I just drew I'll know that the pencil just isn't going to get, or I'm sorry, the light is just not going to get there. So now that shows up really well. And then you're done. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So I'm just going to grab my pen again. Here's the other really cool thing about using ballpoint when you start off is that, and I've said this before about you should avoid erasers. Well, this is going to force you to not erase because there isn't one. So that's what you want to ultimately achieve. Now, I don't want to copy this. So I'm going to try some different shapes here. Let's try some, maybe a plant that has alien-like exotic fruit. And I'm making the ellipses and ovals as dynamic as possible. I want to add a little bit of chaos in here. Differentiate the sizes of them. Okay, so now there's a lot of energy happening within that, and I've barely drawn anything. That's when you know your thumbnail is going to be successful. Now I'm just going to put the stem, or the stalk, whatever you want to call it, flowing right into what looks to be like a conch shell, or even a beetle. I don't know. Because again, remember, we wanted to mix creatures and plants together. So we'll see how this is going to happen. I can't promise anything, folks. I don't know. But if you're drawing along with me, number them. Okay, so this is number 1. Try to keep your, here's number 1. Try to keep your sketchbook nice and neat. Okay, and then maybe if I turn a little bit like this, you guys can see it a little better. Okay, so again, I'm not going to think about this too hard. On the actual stalks, and then the circle part, so I guess the bud can come out of here, or it's a creature and maybe there's extra legs coming out. Maybe I can put tiny little hairs, and if I want the hairs to really show up regardless of the amount of detail surrounding it, I'm going to push pretty hard on those little hairs. If you're a dude and you haven't shaved yet, you'll know what that looks like on your face. It looks like stubble. That's what we're putting on here, stubble. There we go. And now just little dots. You don't need anything fancy, just little dots here and there. Kind of spread them apart. Make sure that when you're doing something like this, you're putting in dots, it's a specific texture. So you need to give the illusion that that texture is wrapping around the shapes that you're drawing. So on the edges of the ovals, I'm making sure that the bristles, or the little, whatever you want to call them, hairs, stand out. And I'm not pushing as hard, because that puts the lines in depth. Just don't push hard. People ask me, how do you get so light with a ballpoint? I say, I just don't push hard. And I push harder when I want them to come in frame. There we go. And then what would be kind of cool is maybe this plant is alive to the point where it doesn't like where it's growing, so it just jumps. And then it goes to another patch of, I wouldn't say earth because it's not going to be on earth, patch of ground, and then it grows there. It likes it better. It's kind of creepy actually. So I'm just going to put some really dark lines right underneath everything, because I know based on the light source that I want. If the light source is up here, I'm just going to draw a little arrow. If the light source is up top, I know that everything on the underbelly is going to be darker, including some of the sphere. Okay, over here, because you have foundations, it's core shadows. But again, these are thumbnails, so we're not freaking out about making the core shadow wrap perfectly around the oval shapes. Okay, so we got that. That's all I want. I'm going to take my pencil again. Always make sure that this is sharp. Those of you that are new to my channel, I really stress this in just about every video that I teach, and making sure that when you're sketching that the graphite is sharp. Dull pencils make dull drawings, and you definitely don't want to do that unless it's a specific area that you're shading and you get that nice little flat spot on your pencil, then it's okay. So eventually you're going to have to turn the pencil over. Okay, so I'm switching directions like this, and I'm just going to put the pencil right over the ink. There we go. Now, you're viewing this on a computer or your mobile device. You're not really going to see the full effect unless you do this in real life. So if you're drawing along with me with both of these tools, hopefully you can start to see the effect that this has, and it's really, really cool. Because I can spend a lot of time putting my own details with a pencil in here, even though the ink is in there too. And what it does is it just offers a really good, like a juxtaposition of two different things. Okay, you can still put depth in there, you can still put shading, okay, because it's, let's face it, it's a little harder to shade with a pen than it is a pencil. Let's make sure, no, that's not number 3, it's number 2. Made a goof. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Let's try something new here. Think about some cool animals and also some plants that we like. We like the succulent plants. Those are just really good for households. So maybe we could do something like that. I kind of did that up here, but this is more of, it looks like cabbage or lettuce. So let's say we're adding in some stalks. Let's open them up like this. I don't know how this is going to turn out, so you guys are going along with this journey with me. Okay, maybe like that. Now we could do something different down here. See how I'm just kind of throwing the lines together? This really, this is what makes thumbnailing so much fun. Okay, so now it looks like the root system has a bunch of long legs. Oh, subconsciously, I guess I was thinking of a crab with a succulent plant face. So now it looks like this thing can just get up and walk. Cool. Let's see where this goes. And that was me just experimenting and not really thinking about anything too hard. Now sometimes you're going to find yourself, you know, experimenting with what you already do in your comfort zone. Like with me, crustaceans, exoskeletons, insectoid shapes. But there's always room for stuff that you don't normally do. Okay, so that's why up here, like big puffy shapes. Down here, I've never really combined a succulent plant head with what appears to be crab legs. No, never done it. Maybe we could do something else cool in here too. Like flower petals. Yep, you heard it here first, folks. I am drawing flowers. I don't know why I'm drawing flowers, but I'm drawing flowers. Maybe this is a household plant that got mutated because a bug fertilized it, or the owner fertilized it with something radioactive. And here it is. It walked out of a flower pot, and now it's going to go down the street and try to plant itself. There we go. I'm just making that up. Okay, so I'm just going to be simple with this and light this from above. I'm going to keep the dark parts under here. Let's thicken it up with the ballpoint. Those of you that are tuning in to my channel for the first time, you know that I definitely advocate for sketching with both a pencil and a ballpoint pen. I try to mix them up as I go. Okay, there we go. Even these really light gestural lines that are in here that can suggest detail, you can put pencil marks over that and the pen marks will still show up. That's why it's so awesome combining ink and pencil. And I can also understand if you're a little hesitant in doing that. especially if you're doing that for a school assignment or something. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Now I can shade with a pen too. I've done that in other videos. I'm going to hold off on that because I want to keep the shading strictly with a pencil. The only thing that I'm doing with a pen that's remotely shading is putting in the harsh cast shadows, where things will definitely be darker due to the light from above. But I also want to show most of the body too, so I'm going to take my pencil and then I'm going to put one single layer to start across the body, very lightly. I'm holding the pencil at the end of it so that my grip isn't too tight and I'm not forced to put a lot of detail in there. That's what you want to avoid. But notice how I lifted my hand up to speak and then I'm going back to my picture. Make sure that when you go back to your picture that you're going the same direction that you were previously going. This will keep everything in harmony basically. Because a lot of times if you get distracted, you lift your pencil up and you go do something like go to the bathroom, get food, do whatever, and you come back and you start shading in a different direction. Where those two directions overlap when you start tends to be darker and it kind of ruins your train of thought. Okay, so now that we got the majority of our plant creature shaded in one direction, now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to see what happens. I don't know how this is going to turn out. You guys are witnessing this in real time just like me. And right now my strokes are tighter together so I can fill in the gaps of the paper. And notice how I'm not worried about staying inside the lines. Right now we're just at the thumbnail experimentation phase. This is what's going to open your mind up to new possibilities. When you start refining your work, that's when it's okay to try to stay inside the lines and making sure everything's nice and tidy. Okay, so what's cool about this design is this whole head of the succulent plant blades, I guess you can call them, there's going to be a cast shadow across the entire torso down here. That's why I wanted to leave it for the pencil and not the ink, because the ink was just going to make it jet black and I don't want to do that. Because remember, shadows are never purely black. The only time shadows are really black is when there's no light source getting in there. Like if you're shading a box, like if you're doing a cube, the contact shadow on the ground where the box meets it, that's probably going to be a black line, just because there's really no light getting in there. But you want to avoid black at all costs. Just like you want to avoid using white to mix colors to make them lighter, because it's not going to help. It's going to give you a false lightness with the color. Okay, the other thing you got to be careful with though, and I forgot to mention this before, if you're combining ink and graphite, you don't want to shade too much on top of the ink, because since the ink has a natural sheen to it, the graphite does too if you push too hard. If you combine those, then when you move the light around or when you just look at your sketches, you're going to get a reflection of the light source in your room onto the pencil, and you want to avoid that. So I'm going to stop shading right there. That's when you know to stop. So that's number 3, the real number 3. All right, let's do another one. And comment below if you're learning a lot about this, if you're trying this. I also want to know if you're frustrated. Oh, I need that pen. I want to know if you're frustrated too, because again, this might be completely new for some of you. And you know, I understand your frustrations if it's not working for you right away. That's totally fine. The other thing I suggest is checking out the links in the description and the links in the very first comment, the pinned comment. The Creature Design Workshop Discord that I run, it's a bustling community and I invite you to join it. It's free to join that. We have an influx of aspiring concept artists and industry veterans coming in every day with their own sketches. We have we have monthly creature design challenges based on a short brief that I give. We have voting, we have winners. It's a lot of fun. And then I run a creature design workshop off of my Discord. If you want to sign up for that, just check out the link for the website below. And then about a month or two ago, I am just excited the fact that I can start up my private mentorship again. So if you're interested in my private mentorship, please email me at bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. That's also in the description below in the first comment. You know, if you can't do any of the workshop or the mentorship, you should just stop by the Discord for a little while and see if it's to your liking. We learn a lot. We got a big cache of reference, hard surface, environments, weapons, creatures. We have a figure drawing section in our Discord. It's just a lot of fun. This looks like a heart. Doesn't it? Looks like a heart. I don't know. It also looks like a giant beetle. Totally did not mean to draw a beetle. But we're drawing plants, so maybe if we make those some big petals or something. Aha. Didn't expect to do that. I am very uncomfortable right now because I don't know what's happening. Now this looks like a flower is opening up. What am I doing? You're going on the journey with me, guys. I don't know what's happening here. This might be the climax of the entire sketching session. So let's see where this goes. It's just a bunch of lines. It kind of looks like a deadly plant, but it also looks like a flower, like we're looking at the top of a flower with the petals opening. Maybe the petal arms are coming out of a shell or something. Now it looks like the belly of a platypus, or I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Let's see where it goes. It could be the belly. Could be like a pine cone too. That would be kind of neat, right? Maybe we can start layering some different areas where it looks like the cone itself is growing out of the body. Yeah, that's kind of neat. It's a big plant too. And this is the other cool thing about drawing with a pen is the lines that I immediately need to get darker, I don't have to worry about if my pencil can handle that. With the pen, you know it can't. The ballpoint pen. Since this one's a little bit more detailed, maybe we will end the session with this one and see how it turns out. If you've made it this far, congratulations. I invite you to, or I encourage you to watch till the very end, just to see what happens. See how I got there. Comment below if you're in school right now and you're doing projects and this is helping you, if your thumbnail process is improving. I love finding out what students are going through, especially in school, their personal projects, trying to find a job. And I try to help any way that I can. Okay, we are on the home stretch. One thing that I'm forcing myself not to do is do any shading with the pen, even though I want to. I'm going to jump right in these crevices and be like, I want to shade there. No, I'm going to keep the pen strictly for line work, and I'm going to shade with the pencil, because that's what the lesson is today. It could be frustrating learning that kind of discipline and like, I can't use that. But it's going to pay off in the end when you can do that with the tools that you're making or you're using. The only shading I'm doing really isn't even shading, it's just shadow placement. Because I know that those areas are going to be darker, and since this is a thumbnail, it's the dirty, gritty stage of it. Nothing's really finalized in the drawing. This is the very beginning stages. I can get away with just kind of making up areas where I believe a deep crevice would exist, because who's to tell me that it's wrong at this stage? I mean, later, if it's not working, then yeah, you're going to need to change it. But again, when I was mentioning before about the gesturing and the interpretation that it gives, that's such the fun. It's so much fun about thumbnailing, because 10 people can look at this and see 10 different things. It's not finalized, and hopefully it'll excite people. That's a lot of fun. And I'm getting ideas as I'm drawing. You know, what to make darker. Putting in a little bit more detail in this one. Okay, so now we got a mutated killer pine cone being flung at us at 42 miles per hour. That's what's happening right now. So we have a plant that came alive in Sony's apartment. We got a pine cone that's being hurled at us. We have one plant that was upset because of where it was dug into in the earth or the ground, so it just got up and left. And then this poor thing is like, I don't know, like a sorry offspring of a plant. And they're just unhappy and floating. Okay, so this is number 4. 3. Also, you'll probably notice that my style of doing thumbnails, it's neat. I like to be neat with my thumbnails. You have full permission to be very messy with your thumbnails, as long as you know what's happening and that you can convey your idea as clearly as possible. So maybe being messy isn't the way to go if you have a specific idea in mind. Okay, I'm done with the pen. Let's jump into the pencil. So I took about a 30-second break before I started this new segment, so I just sharpened my pencil again. Here we go. We're going to put one coating across here. I'm not pushing harder as I'm moving up the shape. Notice what I just did there. So if I'm shading like this, in this direction, 45 degrees, and I have to raise my hand to shade a new area because the angle of my hand isn't comfortable, I'm still going the same direction as what I previously did. And then I jump over here to this petal and I make sure that those pencil strokes are the same direction, so that when all of these meet back up in a more narrow area, you can keep shading in that direction. And then you just go wider if the shape permits that. These are the little secrets of keeping your pictures nice and tidy so they don't look like a complete mess when you're sketching. Because look at this, I mean, all that ink, that's a mess, but it's like controlled chaos. So I put the darkness where it needed to be, put the outlines where they needed to be, and now the shading is going in one direction because it's intentional. So I'm going in the same exact direction that I started up this petal. I'm going to lift it, and I'm going to go the same direction this one. Then, that's when you turn it, like that, and then you do it again. So I'm going to go the opposite. Do you need patience for this? Yes, you do. Make sure that you're keeping your pencil strokes close together so that the gaps in between each stroke are going to be filled much faster. Otherwise, you're going to be doing 25 passes instead of 5. This is why having a sharp pencil is very important. At this angle, you're going to be lifting up in different spots. See how I went up that petal? I'm going to go back, and the angle's still going to be the same. See how these pencil strokes are going out of the lines? That's fine, because the ballpoint pen gave me the definitive line of the shape, so I don't have to worry about what the pencil's doing. The pencil is there just to help add value and depth. Honestly, it's just depth. Because I can, like, for example, if I go up this petal the same direction, and I don't want to stop at the very end, I'll just keep shading up and then release my pressure. Now it just looks like there's mist around the petal that I already defined, so it's fine. This is why it's fun doing ballpoint pen and pencil. There you have it. Okay, so we did some really cool stuff here. If you sketched along with me, or if you're going to watch this later and sketch along, just relax, put some music on, light a candle, open the window, draw outside, do whatever. And if you have some plants around your condo, house, apartment, whatever, farm, try to draw those, but turn them into creatures, because I think a lot of times creature concept artists forget that it's not just animals we got to look at. It's also the stuff that grows out of the ground, because the stuff that grows out of the ground on this planet is actually as weird, if not weirder, than the animals we have. We got some crazy plants. So hopefully that helped. Thank you all for tuning in. Love you all. Until next time, see you later.